Welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of sports, and we're going to continue our run through and NFL previews as we rode up to the NFL season. Next division we got on tap is the NFC South. Tim, are you ready to go?
What a fun, talent-filled division we got here. Let's run it.
Yeah, this division's kind of a crapshoot, but we're going to run through it anyway, starting with the Atlanta Falcons. They were an interesting team because if they had a clutch gene in them, they would have made the playoffs, but they don't. Instead, we're left with one of the unique teams in the NFL, the more, if not the most unique team, just because of how they're made up. And they're definitely in the weakest division in football. So, just in general, any of these teams can win the division, including Atlanta. And that unique ability is going to help with the three running backs because you drafted Bijan Robinson. You have a 1,000-yard rusher in Tyler Algier. And then you have a former running back, now Joker, whatever that means.
Joker.
Cordero Patterson.
The newest NFL position that is just all of them.
What does that mean?
Hey, it's whatever you want it to mean. But in general, they have the deepest. Yeah, they have the deepest running back room in the entirety of the NFL. No other team has a third running back or a third option at running back like Cordero Patterson. Especially you talk about just trying to change up the pace and change up, what you use each guy for. Obviously, Bijan has the opportunity to be a massive influence in the passing game. Tyler Algier really cemented himself as having a role in that team because he has been a relatively efficient runner when he got some pretty significant touches last year. And then Cordell Patterson can kind of just do all of the above.
Anything.
He can do truly anything. I think it'll be interesting to see.
Put him at quarterback. Who knows?
Well,
man.
He's not getting any younger. I wonder if he'll have any. If he'll still do work in the kick return game. Because obviously we know how much of a strength he has there.
Probably.
And because his workload's not going to be nearly as much in the backfield, I imagine it'll be a good chance for it to get, the most value out of him while they have him. But yeah, I mean, they are extremely unique. I think a big reason why they didn't win as many games as they could have last year, you talk about the clutch gene. I look at the quarterback position. There's so little to truly trust at that quarterback position. They're running with Desmond Ridder this year. I really don't know how I feel. He is one of the few quarterbacks that started quite a bit or started a decent amount that I will admit that I didn't feel like I've watched him very much or saw him play. So as much as I kind of know of his general game from college and his journey to the NFL, I don't know what trajectory he's on really. He obviously still has a lot of room to grow, but I just don't know if we can really trust him yet. To me, for me, the jury is still out on whether or not he can lead a decently successful NFL team.
Well, here's the thing about Desmond Ridder for me. I like what I see. I think he has the tools to be a decent NFL starter. And this isn't just from reading the Ringer's quarterback power rankings 30 minutes ago. Go read those, by the way. They are awesome.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. We just really like what they do. But I also saw Desmond Ridder in the 21 NFL Combine. If that left a bad taste in my mouth for Sam Howell, but then I saw Desmond Ridder and went, there's something here. The athleticism was far better than we expected. The arm talent was pretty decent. He could make most of the throws. He's not going to be like off-platform Jesus or anything like that.
No, but they also don't really need him to do that. I don't think.
Exactly.
Again, you see a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL that if you're willing to build your offense around their strengths and try to avoid their weaknesses and not try to make them do things that they can't or be a quarterback that they are not, you can get pretty good success out of a guy.
Yeah, and what the tools he does have, it works, especially when you consider what's around him. You have those three running backs and then 2 first-round picks in a wide receiver that still has a lot of talent. And a tight end.
And they use those receivers. That's going to be a massive question because we all know Kyle Pitts' big struggle to find the end zone in the United States of America.
Well, they need to get the pass game going, and they need to get Desmond Ridder more acclimated into the offense. They made the switch last year off of Mariota and went, hey, kid, go do stuff.
They gave him the key to the castle and said, see what you can do.
He has an off season of work to now where he can really, it's time to see what he can do. And I like this Falcons team a lot more than you do. I also don't think their defense is terrible. They made a fair amount of additions on that side at the linebacker, a lot of depth at cornerback, and the big name safety in Jesse Bates. So I think that cornerback room might be the best in football overall, with AJ Terrell, Casey Hayward, Jeff Okudah, Mike Hughes, and Trey
What
Flowers.
version of Jeff Okudah are we talking about here?
He's still a top 5 overall pick.
Yes, but he hasn't played anywhere near like one yet. That's the whole reason why they got rid of him for what? Like a 5th or a 6th or something like that?
But that's
it was
okay.
like a 4th, 5th, or 6th round pick.
But they don't need him to be a stud cornerback. He can
They
be a
don't, but I also
CB3 or a
can't.
CB4.
But I also can't consider
still
him
be
at
fine.
his ceiling when he hasn't played at his ceiling yet.
Oh, I'm not considering him at his ceiling. I'm considering him to be like the 3rd or 4th best cornerback on his team, which that's still pretty darn good. So overall, I mean, and here's the thing. If things go awry with Desmond Ridder, they have the perfect fill-in to just throw the life preserver. And if anything, if Desmond Ridder goes down, there is no backup that I have more faith in the NFL than the man, the myth, the legend, Taylor Heineke, baby, the people's quarterback. How can you not love Heineke?
And he's already been in like a situation, where he has gotten on various occasions thrown in, on pretty randomly, and he's just like, okay, let's do it. And he has stepped up to the challenge pretty much every time. So dude, yeah, quite frankly, you could see some slight improvement
Heineke season if Ridder goes down.
Yeah, if Ridder either goes down or if he struggles enough where they decide, let's switch stuff up and see what happens. Heineke, in terms of the backup, is about as solid as it gets in terms of general talent, as well as also just starting experience. Because
if Heineke throws it to buff Matt Collins, that's like Matt combination for the century, dude. All jokes aside, I genuinely think that the Falcons can be a wild card team at their ceiling. Do I think they're going to win the division? No. But if you want a hot take for the Falcons, this is not a bad I think they have a very real shot to be the 2nd best team in the NFC South. It's a weak division. The door is wide open for them. They have aspects of this team that other teams in their division do not.
Yeah,
it's there for
they are, like you talk about with unique teams, and what the Falcons have is it makes them very difficult to game plan for, because they just don't have a traditional lineup where you can throw your normal defense out there and say, all right, let's go, line up with these guys we usually do. They can throw any number of random sets with a bunch of these running backs, with some of the big receivers / tight ends, with Pitts. But if you want a hot take on the Falcons this season, I have them at 5-12. I don't think they're going to be. I think they'll drop enough. But the hot take with that is I have 4 of those wins coming in conference. I have them being the conference leader in wins, and they have 4-2. I have the rest at 3-3, 3-3, and 2-4
in division leader.
Yeah, or in division, yes. And I still have them at 3rd in their division.
Yeah, that's kind of wild. They must play like crap out of division.
If you want a hot take on that one, I have them going 1
and see, here's the thing. Yeah.
1-10 out of division.
Yeah, that's a little nuts. I don't see that happening. I mean, they went 7-10 last year. I have them at 8-9. And we discussed how that 7-10 could have very easily been an 8-9 or a 9-8 if a couple things bounced the Falcons' way. I think the Falcons got better from last year. I think they improve. So, I mean, stranger things have happened. If there's one surprise NFC team that I could see making the playoffs, I can see Desmond Ridder taking them there.
Especially if Bijan lives up to some of the true generational of what people are expecting of him to pop off immediately. I don't know if it's truly valid to expect that from him, but if he lives up to that, that would be another key contributor to the Falcons really surprising people as a team.
11 fantasy leagues drafted Bijan Robinson this many times. None. It's not that he's not good. We just don't know. I just don't have enough faith. We just don't know. That's not a knock on Bijan. I'm just saying. But we got to move on. We got more teams to cover. The next of which being the Carolina Panthers, who earned the 1st overall pick after making a trade with the Chicago Bears and just handing them DJ Moore on a silver platter, and use that to select the new franchise quarterback.
I'll take it.
in Bryce Young. Yeah, I know you will, but like, why? Why did that happen? We
Hey,
have,
they have some real faith in Bryce Young. I
I
mean,
guess so.
they
We
found their
we made a
guy.
video when that trade happened, so you can go check that out if you haven't. And you know what? If Bryce Young gets hurt, Red Rifle, they got a lot of interesting backup quarterbacks in this division. I'm just gonna put
Yeah,
that
yeah,
out
they
there.
do.
And also just like that Andy Dalton is still in the league on the Panthers and like his fifth
He's
team in like
still he's
5 years.
he's still kicking it. He's trying his best to stay
He's
afloat
still
there, but
kicking it, but it's going to be a complete and utter overhaul for the Panthers. New head coach in Frank Reich, new quarterback in Bryce Young, and they made a lot of additions in the offseason. You
no kidding.
revamp your quarterback room. You bring in Miles Sanders as the key running back. You bring in guys like Adam Thielen and DJ Chark and Demir Bird and Hayden Hurst to be your pass catchers. And with a Panthers defense that wasn't terrible last year. It was one of the better defenses in the conference. I think there will be some growing pains early on, but the pieces are being built. The building blocks are there. It's just it doesn't happen right away. It never happens right away in the NFL. And when you just kind of start over, you expect it to be a bumpy first ride. I mean, that's why I have them at 6-11. Tim, you think they're going to absolutely blow chunks?
I
Sorry,
do.
Panthers fans. I mean, Tim, you just don't have a lot of faith in these NFC South teams so far, but
I don't, and I gotta be honest. It's mainly just because a lot of those key positions. And me personally, I have never been a huge fan of Miles Sanders. And I don't know if this, change in scenery with this new offense is really going to do have any favors. Adam Thielen's on the wrong side of his prime. Bryce Young as a rookie quarterback in a system that's not really going to do him any favors. I don't see him doing great, especially this year. Um, we'll see if they get Hayden Hurst going. They did make the additions to their wide receiver core to at least try to make up for some of the lost productivity and depth with losing DJ Moore, but now all of a sudden you have
and
Adam
they
Thielen
drafted
and DJ
Jonathan
Chark,
Mingo, which
and you have
could
Jonathan
be
Mingo as
could
well.
be a valuable weapon.
Yes, but in general, I can't say I was a huge fan of just the general decision making and the way that the team was ran by Frank Reich in Indianapolis. I don't know if I see him being, the guy to really, bring these guys together and turn them around. But again, even if it
Yeah, I
does,
guess the
it's
question is
not going
still,
to happen this year.
like,
To me,
is
there's
Frank
too
Reich a
many.
good
There's too
coach?
many. There's too many incorrect pieces to this puzzle. They are pieces that could be fit into proper puzzles, but I don't think they fit into the same puzzle here.
Okay, that's an interesting way to put it. You could very much be correct in that assessment because there are a lot of new puzzle pieces that just kind of fit together. Like, and everybody's in it for
But
the
I
first
also
time.
could be completely wrong. For some reason, all those guys could mesh perfectly. That wide receiver core could, work off of each other super well. We could see Adam Thielen as, a significantly increased efficiency and higher production being essentially their wide receiver one. I have no idea.
I'm
But
not
it
gonna
just
bank
doesn't
on it though.
it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right to me. So that's why I don't believe in it.
But they don't feel like 3-14 bad. They just kind of feel like a team that'll start slow and then play the spoilers for a potential playoff team later on.
There's always somebody that does that, and it very well
And then
could be
just
them.
like gives them
Especially
hope,
in this
gives them
division.
hope for next year. And it very well could be Carolina. We got two more teams to go through, the next of which being the New Orleans Saints, who it's weird to say after going 7-10 last season that this is the odds-on favorite to win this division, but they really are.
They've got enough going for them, I think, that, again, when you
Yeah.
talk about this division and how wide open it is,
And it's
believe it or
almost
not,
like,
they are the most solidified.
yeah, it's like one of these
really,
teams
which
is not
weird.
like the others. Like, yeah, you get rid of that revolving door quarterback and you get some stability in Derek Carr after that went so insanely south in Las Vegas. But
Kind of feel
I
bad for the dude, but
like where this offense is at. Chris Olave's a stud. You get Alvin Kamara back after 3 games, but Jamal Williams can very much carry the load until then.
I think they will
Led
be
the
perfectly
NFL
fine
in
with
touchdowns.
Jamal Williams to start the year.
And look, as somebody who misses Jamal Williams in the Packers backfield, very much. I think Kamara and Williams can be an awesome thunder and lightning combination.
Yeah.
They still have the Swiss Army knife and Taysom Hill. Jimmy Graham is partying like it's 2014 for some
Okay.
reason, but we're not gonna. That's like a little bit of an overreaction. Like old man
Big.
Jimmy. He's
Yeah.
probably not even gonna
Big.
start. It's probably gonna be Jawan Johnson at the tight end.
Realistically, big thing for me and in this team for this season. We have seen, in those first basically 2 games that he was back last year, the difference between, in my opinion, the difference between a decent season and a true playoff team, like we can see them win to the division relatively handily. Can they keep Michael Thomas healthy and involved in this team? And that is a bigger
Michael
question than ever.
Thomas.
Because when he started the season last year, week 1 played great. Week 2, I mean, he caught all 5 of his targets, but then after that, boom, he's of course then down again for the rest of the season. So I still believe he has the ability to be an efficient receiver, especially now that you have a guy like Chris Olave. Michael Thomas doesn't technically need to be the wide receiver 1. I mean, he still has the talent to.
Yeah,
but he doesn't need to. Just keep him on the field.
You don't need to set the single season reception record and win offensive player of the year. Although the last time Michael Thomas,
off the face of the earth.
Well, that was the last time Michael Thomas was fully healthy. People kind of forget that he was arguably
He's just been injured for that long.
The best receiver in football. So imagine, we can't count on him making a full return.
No.
But just like, imagine if he does.
Even if they're able to get half a season, that would be improvement.
Yeah, that would be really fun. And
it would make them a much more fun team to watch.
I am rooting for Michael Thomas to return to some relevance in, as like a great receiver. And
as funny as it is to hear him complain a lot, I mean, I do just want to see, like, he's a fun player to watch.
Yeah.
Like, he's a fun football player. This team would be a much more fun team to watch. They'll be much more electric. They'll be slinging the ball around a lot more. I would like to see it because, honestly, for me, I also want to see, does he still have that spark? Does he still have that ability when he's healthy to be a top receiver in the league? Nobody knows because we haven't seen him in any real capacity.
Does he still have that dog in him? We don't know.
That remains to be seen.
And another aspect of this team that we didn't mention is the defense, which is still really, really good. And one of the top defenses in the NFC, if not the NFL. They didn't really need to do much because they did lose a lot of pieces, but they just kind of plugged and chugged in depth. And
it's a retool. They didn't go out and sign anybody big and flashy, but they know what spots they needed to fill. They got guys that they think can fill them well enough. It's and also, they had the talent and depth.
Yeah, it's also a defensive-minded head coach in Dennis Allen who can run a tight ship on defense. Like, you add all of those factors in, and I see an NFC South division title and a return to the playoffs.
It makes sense.
I have them at 9-8.
Yeah, I have them at 10-7. Again, there's a lot of these that, especially in this division, there's a lot of stuff that can go either way. But with the way that their offense is built, the way that their defense has, been solid and should continue to be solid, to me, there's no reason, again, unless injury bug bites them with Michael Thomas, or for instance, if Derek Carr or Alvin Kamara, some of those big guys go down.
We'll see what happens.
But at the end of the day, I think they have enough depth in a lot of those key positions where you can put guys in without there being too significant of a drop off if that happens midseason. They have that kind of depth.
We got one more team to go through, thus being the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they're in an interesting spot because, in my opinion, I'm just going to say it up front, I don't think they're going to be very good because you have the remnants of that Super Bowl team that either are kind of
a lot of them are getting older,
decaying, fading, or Mike Evans. It's a lot different when, Tom Brady's your quarterback and he kind of limped to a division title. And now you got to decide between Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. I mean, they settled on Baker Mayfield, but
and I still think that's the sensible decision. But
of course it is. But this team just isn't what it used to be.
It's not
in a steep decline, in my opinion, which is why I'm just gonna.
And that's where you and I disagree.
Keep my evaluation of them short and sweet. I expect them to be terrible. Todd Bowles really isn't a good head coach. He's not going to take them anywhere. Mike Evans should be traded in an effort to jumpstart this rebuild. I think they're going to have one of the top picks in next year's draft, and I have them going 4-13.
I mean, it is certainly a possibility because this is one of those teams. It's one of those rosters that if things start to go south early, you could see the shit being blown up. With the age of a lot of the guys on the rosters, with the contracts that they have and so on and so forth, they're not in a real position to try to retool and compete for a playoff spot. I think a lot of it depends on truly the play of Baker Mayfield and overall the general efficiency of that offense. Because the only thing that gives me a little bit of hope on the offensive side of the ball is, first of all, I don't think Baker's going to be that bad.
Here's the thing. I don't either. I think he's a better quarterback than people are giving him credit for. The difference is, I don't think that's going to matter.
And it might not, but I think with the weapons he has around him with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, big thing is, can you keep Chris Godwin healthy consistently? He's been on and off in these last 2 years with getting like these minor injuries that keep him out for a week, 2-3 weeks at a time. You're going to want to keep him as healthy as possible, just because
Mike
the fact that
Evans
you're going to
still
need
might
those
not
playmakers.
be there. You're gonna have to pay him. He is the best receiver in franchise history, and it's not close. If you don't pay the man, then trade the man. It's
no, it makes sense.
There's far too much volatility. Like, unless you're gonna count on a breakout from like Trey Palmer in this offense, this offensive line isn't very good, believe it or not.
Yeah, they're not what they used to be, for sure.
That's not going to help them, regardless of whether Rachaad White is a talented running back or not. Because you don't have any to block for him. Who cares?
Well, the only thing that I like about them, not going with Leonard Fournette anymore and moving on from that whole situation is Rachaad White he's much more versatile. He's much more just generally kind of explosive. I could see he may not be a great rushing back. I don't see this team having much success in the running game, like you said, just because the offensive line isn't what it used to be. They're not going to get great pushes, I don't think, at least. But I do very much see with Baker's style of quarterback, with what offense they may need to try to run, I could see Rachaad White having a lot of work in the dump down game, and just being a pretty viable receiving back. Now, whether that will work to their advantage or whether those will just be sort of desperation dump downs, I don't know.
I'm sorry. I'm digging in here. That's not going to work. Dink and dunk with Baker to White and Godwin, and that's about it. With a bad offensive line and a defense that's not great anymore. I think their front successful.
I think the front four is not that bad. Obviously Vita Vea is still solid. I think Kalijah Cansey will only get better as the season goes on. Shaq Barrett, I mean, he's always just been that
like
general
worst version of Washington, and you know how we feel about that defense.
Yeah, but I mean, the one thing that I like about this is you have a lot more experience. You input Ryan Neal on that defense to match him up with Antoine Winfield at the safety position. The cornerbacks definitely leave something to be desired for sure. With you talk about Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean with those two guys. So again, I could be wrong. The big thing that I'm banking on with me putting them at 8 and 9 again is just the fact that I think their offense will be better than most people think. I don't think their defense is going to be good, but I don't think it's going to be completely god awful. I think their offense will be good enough to win a lot of these, very mediocre snooze fest games. They're not going to be a fun team to watch, though. I'll tell you that much.
It's not going to be pretty, but this division's a quagmire in general, so we'll see what happens. But that's all we got for our NFC South preview. If you haven't watched our other previews, we have that up on the channel. And we're going to be bringing you the rest of the divisions throughout this early football season. So if you want more from us, let us know what you want to see. And until next time, we out.